Then I took a smidge and applied it down there.
This one's wife. Is she becoming more deranged? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Many people who become involved with narcissists never, ever, from the outset realise that that's who the person is when they first deal with them. This is because the narcissism allows the narcissist to present themselves in a way which fits in with general perceptions of the way that people behave. Often there are red flags, but many people aren't aware of them and therefore aren't able to spot them. In some instances, they do spot the red flags, not necessarily as red flags. They see the behaviour, for example, he compliments me a lot. It's a little bit excessive, but it is nice, I guess, and thus they dismiss it. Their emotional thinking causes them to put it to one side, as they don't realise that it's a problem. After all, why would somebody complimenting you a lot be seen as a problem? Why would somebody wanting to spend a lot of time with you be seen as a problem? Why would somebody complimenting you in a way which doesn't quite sit with the reality be a problem? Why would somebody talking about the future, saying that they'd love to marry you, that they'd love to have children with you, why would that be a problem? Why would somebody talking about how badly they've been treated by their ex be such a problem? But these are all red flags of the narcissist, but many people fail to recognise they are as such. And naturally, if more people were aware of what those red flags were and took notice of them at an earlier juncture, they would save themselves a world of pain from being ensnared by that narcissist and then suffering the maelstrom of the sustained devaluation that will inevitably come with the dynamic between narcissist and intimate partner primary source. Even when the narcissist starts to devalue you, you don't immediately reach the conclusion, I'm dealing with some crackpot narcissist. You invariably think, have I done something wrong? Maybe they're just out of sorts. They've got a lot of pressure on at work. I guess they're just tired. Sometimes you can't understand why the narcissist has behaved the way that they have, but you just do your best to accommodate it, and it's calmed down now and a respite period has been granted, so let's not bring it up. Let's not ruffle the feathers. Let's not disturb still waters. And thus, you don't realise that you're dealing with someone who has an innate need to control you and draw fuel from you, who acquires character traits and residual benefits and does so through manipulating you and everybody around them. You don't realise that you're dealing with an individual that doesn't have any emotional empathy, that operates with a sense of entitlement and a lack of accountability. You don't know the true horror of what you're actually dealing with. It's only as time goes on that you start to realise that some of the behaviours are odd, and in some instances that you might think this person is unhinged. But in many instances it never gets that far. You're being abused, but it's not in a way where you think that the person is completely out there mental. There always seems to be a degree of plausible deniability about why they behave as they do. There also seems to be some kind of credibility, no matter how slim, in respect of what they do. Yet, for all of that, there are some narcissists that do come across as unhinged, that they seem crazy, that their behaviours make no sense, that their responses are entirely disproportionate to what has actually occurred, that the stories that they tell just seem fantastical, that they don't make sense, that they don't bear any resemblance to reality as you understand it to be. This one's wife finds herself in a situation of more and more people looking at her and shaking their heads and thinking, she's deranged. It's actually quite frightening how detached she is from reality. From the comments she made about just being one plane crash away from the throne, to proclaiming herself as some all-championing bananatarian, yet cuts off her father and her half-siblings. That she talks about how important family is, but doesn't allow her children to bother with their in-laws, their cousins, their uncle and aunties, their grandfather and step-grandmother. A woman who sees herself as a fashion icon but regularly wears clothing that doesn't fit her, is inappropriate, is often wrinkled, and doesn't look right upon her. A woman that increasingly tells the world that she is all of these different things, and yet she is none of them. A woman that thinks that every man wants to fuck her, and every woman wants to be like her, and yet most people would say that she's the most unappealing individual who has increasingly become less physically attractive as a consequence of her clamouring to try and look good, and of course her odious personality putting people off. But is it the case that she's actually becoming more unhinged? Is it the case that she's becoming more deranged with regard to what we see? For instance, the fakery that's only gone on just recently in respect of the waffles, trying to make it seem like she's created them. The whole cookery show, which is an artifice of trying to suggest that she is a doyenne of the kitchen, when in reality it just highlights that she isn't a cook or a chef, that she doesn't really have the crafting skills, that it's based on pinching other people's ideas, other people's abilities, and other people actually do the work. But she's that deranged that she thinks that people won't notice. She's that deranged that she thinks she's brilliant, even though all the evidence demonstrates that she's not. Is it that she's getting more deranged? Well, naturally, the narcissist's attachment to the reality as you understand it is tenuous to begin with, because the narcissist has a different perspective. Naturally, the narcissist's perspective is seen as the one that is wrong because it's in the minority compared to everybody else. As I've explained previously, there's no such thing as an objective reality. There's just a shared majority perspective, which tends to be the prevailing view. In the same way that someone with chromesthesia sees sound as colour and it's regarded as a disorder, they're not lying, that's their perspective. It's a different one, but because it's in the minority, it's regarded as abnormal, a disorder, or unusual. And it's similar with regard to the views of the narcissist. But might it be that this one's wife is becoming increasingly unhinged? And if so, why? Well, let us deal with the why. A narcissist's connection to reality becomes all the more strained as a consequence of diminishing fuel levels and repeated threats to her control. For this one's wife, she'll be still receiving plenty of fuel. Harry will be providing it, the children will be providing it, the loose gaggle of people she calls friends will be providing it, the staff will be providing it, the people that she deals with professionally will be providing it, and of course she continues to be written about and spoken about by many, many people. There's no problem with her fuel levels. She is nowhere near a fuel crisis. She does, of course, face repeated criticisms. And they are increasing as a consequence of the fact that because she is not only overexposed, but through the passage of time, more and more people are starting to realise this woman lies, revises history, has no real connection to the reality as I understand it to be. She invents things, steals things, makes things up. She's a fabricator and a fake. And of course, the more people that state as such on social media, which she monitors, and that becomes commented about in mainstream media, and hitherto supporters start to turn their back upon her, the threats to control mount up. As I've explained previously, her narcissism will deal with it, but it starts to become taxing. And in such circumstances where that occurs, the narcissism may well cause the narcissist to engage in more and more outlandish behaviour to try and scramble for the control that is so desperately needed. The lies become all the more outlandish, the behaviour becomes all the more ridiculous, the activities become all the more outrageous, because they need to be. It's a little bit like a drug addict who is chasing the same hit that they had when they first took the drug. They have to take more and more of it to get the same effect. But it's the law of diminishing returns. And for the narcissist, as more and more people turn their back and threaten her control, as more and more people criticise her, threatening her control, her narcissism may well then start to cause her to engage in all the more outlandish and outrageous behaviours which make her look deranged. The other factor is this. Much of her behaviour that you can see which may well cause you to think that she is becoming more deranged is simply as a consequence of the guardrails have gone. Even though we did see instances, flashes of outrageous behaviour, it hasn't been to the extent as we've seen as of late. And that's why, as I explained some time ago, Instagram will be on her undoing. because she turns to it so readily, directed by her narcissism, she does so in a manner which allows us to see that she does look nuts. The Billie Eilish nonsense, the sitting in the garden announcing the launch of As Ever, the St. Valentine's Day video, the St. Patrick's Day video, the showing us in the garden with the children video, various posts heralding her new series. Each one comes across as artificial and fake and is to be ridiculed, and makes her look increasingly deranged. Accordingly, much of why she appears to be more deranged is simply the fact that you're actually now seeing more of her behaviour in a raw way without the involvement of people who hitherto, although they were not often listened to, would be able to limit the damage to some degree. Sunshine Sachs and WME and other PR advisors, Ashley Hansen, those individuals were able to provide some damage control. But now, when she's unleashed and unfettered on Instagram, they can't do anything because she basically takes up her phone and away she goes. And thus, she not only exposes herself, but the derangement that she exhibits becomes seen more often than it originally did. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.